What's up, guys? Welcome to the first ELI 5 podcast. I guess that's what I'm going to call it. We'll see. I don't know. Let's just preface some things. We, as in myself and my team, I'm building Hedgehog Markets, prediction markets on Solana, quick shill. Either way, we are building on Solana. Let's see, when did I get into crypto? 2017, Bitcoin, Ethereum, blah, 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 blah. Tried Ethereum DeFi. User experience, fees, god awful. Went to Solana. It was incredible. We've been building since 2021 and haven't looked back. So that is my preface. That's my backstory. That's where we're at. The point of this podcast is to try to explain things through, I guess, my eyes, because I like to have that high level understanding, high level technical understanding, and explain it like I'm 5, like you're 5, and just keep it simple and try to get to the point. Here we go. We're going to give it our best shot here. There's been a lot of misrepresentation, a lot of misunderstanding, and a lot of just like false statements made around like Solana transactions recently. And so first I'll preface this with, I apologize because my dogs like to chew antlers, so you might hear that in the background, but hopefully not. I will preface this by saying that yes, there is a problem with priority fees on Solana. Hopefully that will start to get addressed in v1.18. Currently, the validators are running 1.17.27, and 1.18 is, I think, on track to try to go out middle of April. Quick other shill, we have a prediction market for that on Hedgehog Markets. Anyways, that should address some of these things. But there's kind of a couple different layers to these transaction issues. And more importantly, the misinformation, especially, yes, we're going back to Bankless. They just have such a big platform, and then they spread misinformation. And that's like, in my mind, like that's a huge problem, right? Like we're all trying to build in the crypto space and push this technology forward. And regardless of if you're an Ethereum, Bitcoin, or Solana maxi, if you're spreading blatant misinformation, that's just kind of a problem, and it's setting the entire industry back, right? Because like, I don't know. We should be pushing each other up together, and it's just not happening. So I'm going to play a quick clip from the most recent Bankless episode. And then Mert actually just tweeted recently, as I was actually filming some of this before and whatnot. He addresses a lot of it. So hopefully I'll either reply or quote tweet that and include this video. But please share this if you find this helpful. And I just want to try to give a high level, non-technical analogy to what's going on. So let's go to the Bankless clip real quick, and hopefully this will cover most of it. And it talks about the congestion and the transactions and failed transactions that are happening.
Of this year. Yeah, that like need improvement, certainly. And one of them is this. What is this chart that we're looking at?
Yeah, this is the current problem on Solana. This is the current thing, the current issue, which is the Solana transaction fail rate. 70% of transactions don't go through on Solana. And like I've been watching some like of these like TikToks of like showing people how to buy meme coins on Solana, and like
hit the button like 5 times.
And then you go and you like, if it doesn't go through, just hit
explaining how it's not going through, blah 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 blah.
So this is the current like issue in Solana. This is actually from like networking stuff. There's so much spam on Solana because that's what you get when you...
So this is the problem, right? So they say it's networking stuff. They blame Solana, blah, 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 blah. So there's layers here. So let's just start with, I guess, just the transactions themselves. So it's saying that 70% of transactions are failing. So let's do a quick analogy. Let's say that I have a bank account with Wells Fargo, right? That's a big bank in the US. I have a Wells Fargo bank account. My name's on it. My mom's name is on it. My dad's name is on it. And my sister's name is on that account, right? It's a shared family account. All 4 of us are on this account. Now, if the 4 of us, let's say it's a Monday, it's a work day, we're all at work, and we're like, hey, you know what? I want to go get some lunch. It's 12 o'clock. All of us head out of our offices respectively in different locations, and we head to a local Wells Fargo branch, right? Now, all 4 of us are thinking like, all right, like I think I need $20 for lunch. Let's say there's $20 in that one account that all 4 of our names are on. So all 4 of us have access to this account. If all 4 of us leave our office at 12, and let's say this next part that I'm going to describe is the transaction. So the transaction, getting ready to send it to the chain, is us leaving the office. We fill out a withdrawal slip that says I want to withdraw $20. We put down the account number, and we sign it and we give it to the teller. The teller enters it in, and they hit enter. Right. So that's the transaction, and all of us do that whole process to withdraw $20 respectively. Remember, there's only $20 in the account. And all of the tellers hit enter, right? Technically, one of those tellers will hit enter before the other one, right? So whoever's teller and whoever gets that withdrawal slip filled out, hands it to the teller enters it, they hit enter. Whoever does that first, that transaction will be successful in the eyes of this chart. The other 3 transactions, although valid transactions, right? Everybody was trying to withdraw $20. Everybody went to the correct bank. Their name was on the account and they handed it to the teller and the teller put that information in. But if the $20 is no longer in the account, that transaction is now going to fail. And that's what this chart is showing. So it's showing that 75% of these Wells Fargo transactions are failing. That has nothing to do with Wells Fargo. That has to do with the transactions that are trying to be pushed through. And the fact that the transactions are trying to withdraw or access state on Solana or access funds at Wells Fargo that are no longer there or have changed. So when that transaction gets executed, it fails because the state has changed on chain. So Solana, the network, and Wells Fargo, the bank, is working as intended, and it is saying, no, this transaction is going to fail because, I apologize for my dog, because that state is no longer in a valid state that transaction is trying to execute, if that makes sense, right? I hope that helps explain this chart. So that kind of takes this chart into account. So this chart is just looking at transactions that are successful and land on chain. So all of these transactions are like, I guess in theory, I don't want to say a valid request. So think of these transactions the same way as like if I went to Wells Fargo just on my own and I was like, I want to withdraw $1 million from your checking account, and you had an account at Wells Fargo, right? So this is another situation where this is technically a valid or successful transaction that lands, but the execution of this transaction is failing. So what this chart is showing is that the transactions are failing to execute because you don't have the right permissions, meaning I don't have access to your bank account, so I can't execute $1 million withdrawal. Or maybe the state has changed, right? So I withdrew $20, there's now $0. If my mom tries to withdraw $20 from that same account, that's also going to be a failed transaction because although she has access, the $20 isn't there. So like it's a valid request. It lands successfully. She can go to the bank and make that request, but it's not going to get, it's going to show up as a failure. That doesn't mean that Wells Fargo is failing or Solana is failing. And that's what people are failing to realize. Now, there's more nuance to this. There's also dropped transactions. So dropped transactions are transactions that literally aren't even making it onto this chart. They're not failing. They're not successful on this chart. They're literally not even getting processed by the validators. And there could be a number of reasons for this. So some of the nuance here is that applications and or like wallets are not adding a priority fee or not allowing users to set or modify a priority fee in order to help those transactions land. So that's just a longer term problem. Even if there weren't existing problems with like the priority scheduling on chain, this is still a long-term issue where if you don't add a priority fee to certain transactions where there's a lot of congestion and people basically competing for the same state modifications, your transaction may not land. And then even if it does land, if it lands after somebody else's, it might fail in this case, right? So there's definitely a lot of nuance here, and I guess I don't want to get too caught up in a lot of this stuff. The last thing that I'll touch on is basically the fact that when you're trading tokens and meme coins, there's also this stuff called market movement. When you buy and sell these tokens, the prices change. And when prices change and you try to buy at a lower price than where something's trading, that's going to fail. Same way where if I go into a Wells Fargo and I say, hey, I want to withdraw $20 and there's no longer $20 there, that is just going like, that's not going to happen, right? They're not just gonna be like, oh, you know what? Here's $20. The same way where if you go to buy a meme coin on Solana blockchain and you push that transaction through and it lands with a validator, but it says, I want to buy Sol at $8 and it's trading at $200, that transaction is going to fail. That has nothing to do with the Solana network. That has to do with the fact that the price has moved in the time that it took you to place that order. There's also something called slippage, and slippage is where when you're buying in these AMM pools, depending on the size that you're trying to buy and the liquidity that's available, it moves the price. And if the price is going to move outside of the slippage that you have set, and if there's some UIs where they don't let you set it, or it's preset and you don't know it, if it exceeds your slippage, or what you're basically saying I'm willing to pay, that transaction will also fail. So again, that is not an issue with the Solana blockchain. That is an issue with you or the application itself or the wallet or whatever. So like in this comment right here, they're saying it's a network issue. Like, yes, there is a problem with priority fees. And at a very high level, the issue there is that if you set a priority fee, you should have a priority for your transaction to go through. But the problem is that if I set a higher priority fee than somebody else, it's not prioritizing the priority fees based on how much they're paying. So that's what 1.18 will start to address. It will start to order the priority fee transactions based on how much you're paying. So the higher priority fee, the higher the priority. That makes a lot of sense, but that's not happening right now. And that's the problem. There's some other things there, but at a high level, I hope that sort of answers it. These failed transactions aren't directly indicative of a networking issue. There is a problem, but like they're not understanding the problem. And that's the issue that a lot of people building on Solana have, is that they're misrepresenting the facts and they're not explaining them correctly. So I hope this explains it a little bit better. But there's always more nuance to these things. And when you just run with a dumb headline or take digs at something in a way where you're just completely misunderstanding how something operates, then you probably just shouldn't comment on it. So like, I don't really understand why they're making these comments when there's been a lot of back and forth on Twitter that explain this stuff, and they clearly just didn't take any time to look into it. Anyways, if you enjoyed this episode, please share it, like and subscribe, and let me know any other things that you guys want explained, like you're 5 or I'm 5, because that's how I try to understand stuff. Anyways, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And yeah, until next time.